Welcome everybody to the Future of Customer Experience platform. I think customer experience, whether you are in a consumer business or you are in a B2B business, has become the center stage for most of the time when we are discussing. Right from a boardroom discussion to an operation discussions, customers are playing a central role today. Fortunately, we have with us Mr. Chaitanya. Chaitanya is the Chief Product Officer of a customer experience company, Ozonetel. Thank you, Chaitanya, for joining us today.
My pleasure.
You know, it is indeed very interesting to know about you as a professor as well. It's probably I need to know more about it. So, how come teaching and product coming together?
Sure. Shalil, thanks for bringing it up. So basically, teaching is my passion.
Sure.
And after I finished my masters in computer science in University of Florida, I came back to India to teach. So I started my career as a professor in an engineering college,
Okay.
where I taught for almost 10 years. So in this process, I got involved with startups. I met our current CEO, Mr. C.S. Murthy,
Yep.
and he was just starting up, and I brought my students along.
Sure.
And we built this company along with Atul, Ozonetel. We started in 2007. So for 3 years, I was actually doing both, being a professor as well as building what is Ozonetel right now. But after that, the amount of work that Ozonetel needed, it became successful. So I had to do a lot more work in Ozonetel. So my teaching part of my job actually cut down a lot, and now I just do guest lectures.
But when it comes to product, I think Ozonetel has been the early identification, sort of 2007, that cloud-based communication platform is required. I mean, whether the journey has brought us to a customer experience side, but you started with the communication. And I think the first question which comes up is this sort of a 2007. It was not the time when the cloud was probably known, right? It was not the time when, you know, communication as a platform was ever talked about as well, right? Mostly we knew some Skypes and, you know, video callings and maybe a conference calling happening, but not to this extent which we are seeing today. So what actually germinated as 2007 and then on? So give me a little bit of a historical background.
Absolutely. So yeah, I come from a web background. I love building frameworks, platforms, and web systems. Atul, our CTO, he comes from a telephony background,
Okay.
from Avayas and the Telmes, and he has had a lot of experience in contact centers.
Got it.
And Murthy, he comes from a hardware background. His previous company, he sold to Freescale Semiconductors.
Got it.
So we all three got together, and Atul came with the idea that let's build a communication system.
Got it.
So and then we built a good enough system, but that was not on the cloud, our first product. And then it was a challenge for me,
Sure.
saying that, hey, can you bring this to the cloud? Atul put this challenge to me, saying that, hey, we have this system, a rock solid, stable communication telephony system.
Sure.
Can you bring this to the cloud? And I said, sure, it's a web system, let me work on it. And we both worked together, and that was a challenge. So the challenge was what made us think of cloud.
Got it.
But our first product was a hosted VXML platform. Because at that time, when we talk about telephony systems,
True.
it was about VXML, voice XML.
True.
But then we quickly pivoted to a regular XML, mainly because Twilio launched.
Yes.
And Twilio showed that you don't need to learn VXML, you don't need to be a telephony developer to actually, you can be a web developer and build telephony and communication solutions.
Excellent.
And we said, hey, this is awesome, this model works, let's do this in India. Because Twilio had launched in US, and we quickly pivoted and launched Cuckoo, our cloud telephony platform. So yeah, basically the goal was that how do we make web developers build telephony systems?
Got it.
So think about it, right? I mean, let's say you want to start up. What's the first thing you'll do? The first thing you'll do is maybe take a website, a web page. Why don't they think of a phone number? Because it's hard talking to telcos, getting a phone number. We said that we should make it as easy as starting a web page, and then we brought it to the cloud.
Oh, excellent. I think that's an interesting way to look at it. I never thought about this way. We were always talking about a telephony and a voice, and everything was mostly like a hardware driven and a very hard language of computing requirement, not the web based. Let's do a fast forward, right? So while you started the company, you are one of the pioneers in the sort of a communication as a platform. But when we are talking about COVID and after the COVID, most of the industries have changed and pivoted. The one big pivot has happened is that most of the communication platforms have evolved from a meeting room perspective to now on a field. Whether you are working remotely from home, every home is an office, whether you are working in office or under the sun anywhere. But you need to communicate with the people, you need to connect with the people. That kind of creates, while you are also communicating internally, you are communicating with customers as well, you are communicating with partners as well. The whole world is actually pivoting towards 3 E's. And my discussion as fast forward would be, and personal to me, I think customer experience all of this is now clubbed into 3 E's as first knowing the customer expectations. Okay. Now, I want to ask this question as the first E, how Ozonetel today understand customer expectations and deliver to that? I mean, we start from there and then move to the next 2 E's.
Yeah. So we have a little bit of a different approach to this in the sense that because we, as you rightly pointed out, we have been the pioneers, right? I mean, if you talk to customers directly and say that what do you want, right? They can think in terms of what is possible now.
True.
They may not be exposed to what is possible in the future. Yeah. What are the technologies available? Frankly speaking, right? When we started our company. When we went and asked customers like what do you want in a communication service, they wanted a PBX box. They said that can you bring, we have 3 boxes, can you bring everything into one box and put it in our office?
Yes.
But then if we had listened to just that, we would have been building boxes now. So, but we went a little bit further. We went said that can we bring the whole box into the cloud?
Sure.
So in a similar way now, if you talk to customers now, we get the feedback and they tell their problems. In the sense that, hey, look, there's a lot of automation. I want to reduce the automation. Okay, but do the tools exist now, or do we have to build those new tools? Can we build in AI? So what we try to do is, from a customer expectation perspective, we talk to them, and we don't exactly follow any particular tool or any such thing.
Sure.
We do have an internal metrics that we follow, like enough number of customers ask for this particular problem.
Sure.
Or justify this as a problem in their day-to-day operations. Then we sort of push it up in our product features.
Yeah.
And then we do a brainstorm and figure out how do we solve this with current technology or with future technology. So one of the common requirement after even we launched in the cloud was that customers used to say that, hey, look, we have to install these applications. Agents are there, they're sitting. We have to install an application in every computer.
True.
It was too much of a headache. We took that as feedback and then we started brainstorming and we decided that our software, nothing has to be installed. Browser is already there. Everything has to happen in the browser. So that's a call we took.
Excellent.
But at that time, technology was not ready. We are talking about 2009. And the technology was not ready in the sense that like we have now WebRTC, which is like common. Everybody knows, especially when you are clicking on Google Meet or Teams in a browser. You have a video, you have audio, you have everything. At that time, it was not there. Yeah. So we had to build the protocol also.
Got it.
So to solve that problem, we solve it from a technical perspective.
No, that's a very good point. I think one important point I always think is, if you want to know customers' expectation, be near to the customer.
Yes.
And as far as you're bringing the feedback loop back into the product architecture, I think product is never getting sort of obsolete.
Yes.
It's always innovative in nature. And keep on thriving and aspiring for that. And I think we can always know the nature of the future, and we thrive and aspire for that. Coming to the next E, I think next E is very important. While we know the expectations, we will need to create world-class experience across, right? An experience is a employee experience, customer experience, partner, supplier. Anybody who's involved into the ecosystem will do business with you guys, but at the same point of time, the business requires to create and enable some experiences for the customer. Now, Ozonetel has also gone through a long journey, right? Coming to 2022 now, how is this experience getting created or enabled by the product you're creating?
Yeah. So when you talk about it, right? I mean, when you talk about experience, again, we have to think in terms of stakeholders, like who are the people that my product touches.
Yeah.
So we are talking about agents, we are talking about supervisors, and then we are talking of the end customers who are actually calling the call center. So we have to think of all these people. So when what we have realized is that when building this software, right, especially call center software,
Yeah.
the best way to provide an experience is to actually not be visible.
Got it.
In the sense that an agent is so busy every day. He or she comes to the office and he or she has so much work to do. She doesn't need to learn a new tool. If my tool is invisible to the agent and helps the agent in do their work,
True.
then that's the best experience I've given. So it's actually not visible at all. It's a indirect way of thinking of a problem, but that's how we provide experience for an agent. But at the same time, from a customer perspective, what do the my businesses, when they talk to their end customers, what is the experience they are looking at? The first and foremost thing is it should be like seamless. The first thing is, I mean, most common if you're talking about calls, because that's where most of our current volume is. The most important thing is within a first ring, you should get connected to an agent.
Got it.
And how fast can you do that? What are all the technical things that we have to take care of when the call lands on a switch?
Sure.
How fast can we switch it so that it immediately is available with an agent, so that the customer on the other side doesn't wait? So these are the small things that we need to think about in terms of experience, and we have done our product accordingly.
No doubt, Chaitanya, and I am with you. The reason why I'm saying with you is when you said the technology is supposed to be invisible,
Yes.
I think that's the best experience anybody can have it, right? If technology is visible, I think I'm not patting myself, right? I'm saying maybe I need to do a little bit more job to be done there. But when just sticking to the experience now, and very briefly, Chaitanya, it's just not calling, right? Today experience is about video calling. Today experience is all about chat bots, email exchanges, WhatsApp exchanges. There is so much channel as being opened up. Channel needs to talk to each other. Channel need to identify the nudges, etc. How are you building now on that side? Is it delivering to those expectations now?
Absolutely, absolutely. What you said is absolutely right. I mean, we are, I would say, in the golden age of communication. When we talk about 1970s, 80s, when the call centers came, they were called call centers.
Got it.
It's not call center anymore. It's a contact center.
Got it.
I mean, you can contact in so many different ways, and each channel brings with it its own challenges and advantages.
Yes.
You talk about WhatsApp, you talk about email, you talk about web chat, you talk about Apple chat.
Yes.
Everybody has their own advantages, and everybody has their own things that we have to work around with. So as a product, we have to build our system in such a way that it can adapt to any of these channels.
Got it.
And we have been able to do that. But one thing I would like to mention, since you bring up experience, it's a very valid point that you bring up. When you design a website
Yes.
for your company, there is so much time spent on UI designers, UX designers. There's a design, how click, load. But when you design an IVR, they don't spend the same amount of time and experience. There are, have you heard of a IVR UX designer?
No.
That's my point. But that's a channel.
And IVR is the most frustrating one.
Exactly. Why? Because there are no designers working on it. It's frustrating because they just want to put press 1, press 2. Nobody is thinking about it.
Correct.
And this is what we try to educate to our customers. We say that, hey, look, this is a channel. Put the same amount of effort you're putting in a website. Put the same thing with chatbots.
Yes.
You go to a chatbot, it shows up a list. I call them as interactive chat response systems instead of ICRs. They are not chatbots.
Yeah.
There's no bot, there's no
Sort of an
conversation.
IVR
Yeah, it's like you just click, and then it does something. There's no effort spent in experience.
Yeah.
This is exactly the point you are mentioning. I think it's a very valid point. I think more education has to happen.
Yeah.
I think these new roles will come
Yes.
where you will have a IVR experience designer,
Yes.
chat experience designer. These are roles that have to come. They have to think in terms of
Very important, very, very important. I think, I was talking to one of my colleagues today and I said my 90% of the business is done on WhatsApp today.
Yeah.
Right? My customer will come to me, my employees will come to me, my colleagues are talking to me, my boards are talking to me. So literally I'm saying, why do we need any other thing? I mean, we can actually execute but experience is very important. While we are creating experience, I think most important part which we are forgetting every time is we enable experiences, but for example, in a hotel, the experience could be lighting and air conditioning and what's the arts they are displayed, and you feel good about it. I mean, even the smell. But then when you're talking to people, when you're actually communicating, that's called engagement. And a multi-channel sort of consumption pattern which we emerge. I am also in touch with you on the WhatsApp, but sometimes I call you as well. I think the last E has become the more important E than actually experience. Okay? Because until one is engaged in a rightful manner by design, I think the value is not coming out. Right? So now my question is, so far the E of expectations and the E of experience is brilliantly driven by Ozonetel, but the last E is also very important. And your view on engagement and how this is sort of enabled for your customers is very, very important.
You are bringing up very, very valid points, Shalil. Thanks for that. So the thing is, right, if you think about it, engagement, the best way of engagement is, I mean, I call, like you rightly pointed out, I first call you, let's say some question I've asked, then I send a WhatsApp message. If it goes to a different agent and the agent again asks, who are you and what's your problem, the engagement is gone.
Oh yes.
That's the biggest mistake that happens now, and everybody is working on it. This is known as customer journey.
Got it.
And that's the new thing that has come up now. So what we at Ozonetel are trying to do is, when we talk about CX, right, this is another thing that I would like to touch upon. See, it's just like any term, right, it will be hyper used, it will be abused. Everybody will say it's CX. Yeah, CX is everything, even CX.
I can understand.
Yeah, initially AI, everything is AI. Now CX, everything is CX. But what is CX? I mean, as you pointed out in these 3 E's that you're talking about, these all come under different products also. You'll have to think in terms of, when I talk about from a communication perspective, all these existed in some part or the other, but now they're all coming together.
True.
And this is what I meant by CX. When you look at it, right, I mean, the starting point is the CCaaS, which is the contact center as a service.
Got it.
And then we have an unknown piece, which is known as UCaaS, which is for internal team communication.
True.
These two have to merge together. And then we have a CRM, which is already existing.
True.
That has to integrate with the CCaaS. Now a new thing is coming up, which is known as CDP, the data profile of a customer.
Got it.
That also has to be like what events a customer has done on a website, which clicks he has done, what are in his shopping cart. All these have to be tracked, and these have to be fed to an agent. All of these have to be integrated, and this whole thing has to be encompassed by a right AI system.
Oh.
So this whole thing is now a new platform, which is a CX platform.
Got it.
I think that's the approach that we at Ozonetel are taking. We are sort of bringing all these things together, different pieces. We build most of it.
Yes.
In some cases, we partner with people, and then we bring those things in, and we provide this whole platform, and then only it works as CX.
This is fantastic. You actually cleared a lot of doubts in my mind as well, because this always was the question. CX. Everybody is talking about CX. I go to so many forums, so many discussions. Everybody is saying we are into customer experience, but bringing the sort of a CCaaS and CRM together is actually creating and enabling a platform on a CX perspective. Is a bright sort of a encoding of a CX. Now, obviously, this is tough. This is little complicated.
Yes.
I have seen many UCaaS platform and CCaaS platform available in the market. My last question for Chaitanya is, lot of businesses would say, yeah, it's going to take a lot of time to implement. It's going to be a complicated efforts. There are different products to be implemented and trained and etc. I just want to know, is Ozonetel on the same lines, or we have dealt with that problem as differently?
No, that problem, that's exactly the point. Like you rightly pointed out, right now, if a business wants to enable CX holistically, you exactly pointed out, they have to work with 5 different vendors. And that's exactly what we are solving. We have this whole platform, which is, as I said, right, the stack. When we started 2009, 15 years back, that was the Cuckoo platform, our CPaaS platform. On top of which we have built our CCaaS and UCaaS platform.
Got it.
On top of which now we are adding the AI and the CDP platform. And this whole thing is holistically one single piece that works for a customer. So that's the biggest advantage we'll bring.
So end to end, right? Just last, how would you define the future? Couple of
I think the future is completely AI. I know the hype. We have had this hype cycle for a long time. The Gartner hype cycle, if you remember, the whole thing. The trough of disillusionment is done now.
Yes.
Now we are finding some real use cases.
Got it.
I think AI is here to stay. Lot of things. It's going to change the customer profiles. It's going to help us in IVRs and the chat bots. And it's going to automate a lot of things for agents.
Sure.
I think in the future, right now an agent, let's say I want to send you a message.
Yes.
If I have to send you a message, I have to start by saying, hi Shalil, how are you?
True.
I hope you are fine. And then I get to the problem. And I say that, hey Shalil, look, today I had this issue. Can you please work on this? Now, going forward, there are enough AI tools out there where you can say, send Shalil message, work on issue. The rest of the thing
Is written by the
is written by the AI. The actual core content, which is like a text, will be written by me.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, that's already there. It's already there in our labs. We are going to deploy it for our agents.
Sure.
So when agents actually reply, they're going to say system down, network fixed, working. 3 lines. The whole message
Is
automatically built by the AI. I think that's the future.
That's a very brilliant way to look at it. Just a small bit extension. Do you think metaverse is going to play an important role?
It depends. It actually depends. I've actually tried out different things. The last time I was in the US back in April, the first thing I did was I bought an Oculus Quest.
Sure.
2. It's a good device. It's actually much better than the Oculus Quest 1, which had a wire. But still the form factor is not perfect.
Got it.
So for the metaverse to take off, I would say instead of the whole device, what about a glass?
Got it.
If it comes here,
Yeah.
then I think the metaverse is
So
possible.
basically you're saying something which is probably easy and convenient, but powerful enough.
Yes.
Like today the mobile phone is so powerful enough, we can actually do any computation on it. Got your point. I think, well, Wes, thank you very much, Chaitanya. I think I asked specific and very focused questions rather than, and I think our audience will take away today many important aspects of what product means, how a product thinks, and then what Ozonetel has bringing as a value on that. Thank you very much for the time today. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure, Mike. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.